No, hold it. Hey everyone, we're about to start. I see the screen in the back of the room, beyond those pretty faces. Oh, I see it, okay. Welcome everyone to the Wenham, regularly scheduled meeting of the Wenham Board of Selectmen. This is Tuesday, January 21st, 2020. It's a little after 6:30, 6:34. Welcome, and we begin every meeting with welcoming people for public input that items are not on the agenda. So if anybody wants to come up to the podium, talk about items that are not on the agenda, they're welcome to do so. No. Hearing none, as we usually do. Okay. The first item of business is Wenham Day. So we're forming a committee prior to, well, this past year we didn't have Wenham Day. The year before, for many years, the Wenham Museum hosted Wenham Day, but they decided not to do it last year, and so we want to pick it up. So we're looking for a form of committee for a Wenham Day committee. Letters of interest, along with the Housing Authority, which I'll describe in a moment. So letters of interest are being accepted from residents interested in serving on the newly formed Wenham Day Committee to help in planning the annual community event. By the way, there was a very, very popular event in Wenham for years, and we want to replicate that. Letters of interest are also being accepted for a vacancy in the Wenham Housing Authority through April 20th annual town election. Through the annual town election in 2 months?
Well, that's the appointment time, yeah.
Applicants will be interviewed at a joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Wenham Housing Authority on Tuesday, February 4th. More information, including a link on the online submission of interest, is available on the town website. Please submit all letters of interest for both the Wenham Day Committee and the Wenham Housing Authority to the town administrator by Wednesday, January 29th. Next. Burn permits. Season open through May 1st. Burn season is open and runs through Wednesday. Is open now, I presume. It doesn't say now. Through Wednesday, May 1st, residents may purchase and activate all burn permits through the payment center link on the homepage of the Wenham Town website. Permits may also be purchased at the Wenham Fire Department. Please contact the fire department with questions at 978-468-5508.
It started last week, Jack, the 15th. Yeah.
Now, have you got one already, John?
No, but I read further down our booklet. And,
Okay. Well, good for you, John.
and it cost $20 for a regular permit, and seniors get a nice break at $10 per permit.
It should be $5, not 10. Really, okay.
We're least likely to be able to control the fire.
Wenham Town election. Nomination papers are available. This shouldn't be the word forward. Are available in the town clerk's office and due back by Thursday, February 20th. Nomination papers must include the signatures of at least 21 registered voters for all seats, should be plural, right? Except school committee, which requires 40 signatures. The last day to withdraw from the election, if you have turned in your papers, would be Monday, March 9th. The residents must be registered by Friday, March 13th to vote. And an annual town election on Thursday, April 9th.
The positions.
And here are the positions. Make that bigger. Board of Assessors, one 3-year term, 1 seat available. Board of Health, 3-year term, 1 seat available. Library Board of Trustees, 1 seat available, 3-year term. Planning Board, 1 seat available, 5-year term. Regional School Committee, 2 seats are available for 3-year, should be terms, I presume. Selectmen, 1 seat available for a 3-year term. Town Clerk, 1 seat available for a, should be a 3-year term, right?
It is 3.
It says 3.
3.
3-year term. That says 3?
Yeah, I can only see it here.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
All right.
Oh, it says 5.
That says,
Okay.
my eyes say 5.
Our
Yeah.
screens are correct.
That's incorrect, or our
That's-
screens are
yes.
correct? My God almighty, we're not coordinated? Okay.
Apparently not. Not
They're trying
synced,
to trick me.
always.
The Water Commissioner, 1 seat available for a 3-year term. And the Wenham Housing Authority is 1 seat available for 4 years remaining in the term. And to say a minute ago, when we want these, these are elections, so we've already gone over that. All right, next we have, is Diane here?
Oh, yes.
Where are you, Diane? Come on up, you can do the cutest dog, I'm not gonna do that.
Everyone's favorite time in Wenham.
My shepherd would not have qualified if it's the
Not
cutest dog, but it's not here anymore, but go ahead.
So the third annual Cutest Dog Contest is underway in the town clerk's office. Residents are invited to include a photo of their dog when they return their 2020 dog license registration. Dog registration is $10 for a neutered or spayed dog, $15 for an intact dog. Photos must be current and no larger than a 4x6. Entries must come in by Friday, January 31st. January 31st is the last date for those fees for the dogs. After that, there's an increase of $25 per fee. Catherine, did you make a mental note of
I
that?
did.
Yes, okay. I'll then have all the pictures up, and voting will occur at Town Hall from the following Monday to Monday, February 3rd through the 10th. Anyone that comes into Town Hall is eligible to vote, and the winner will be announced at, hopefully, a BOS meeting on Tuesday, February 11th, and will receive a basket of dog goodies donated by WAG's Doggy Daycare. So it's a lot of fun. So even if you don't have a dog, you can participate in the dog contest. Thank you.
Thank you, Diane. So Anthony, would you look into why these two aren't in sync? You know, for example, the town clerk is 3 years, up there is 5. I would think that both of these things should be absolutely in sync. I'm surprised they're not. So
Well, I'm guessing because he had downloaded from a flash drive.
It's when you create a document in Word and convert it to a PDF, if you update your PDF and then don't go back and update the version of Word, it's a little more complicated, but
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, it's just.
Okay, we did all that. Next, we have the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that's me. Just a few things that I want to highlight for my report, which is, you should have received a copy tonight. It'll be online. I'm sure Nikki's already done that. So we conducted an equal employment opportunity and anti-discrimination harassment, which includes sexual harassment training. On the 14th, we had 2 sessions. It was actually well-received and well-attended. That was for employees and board and committee members, and the makeup class is January 23rd from 6 to 8 o'clock. We're working also on another training with the Commonwealth of Mass Operational Services Division. Nikki met with a representative from OSD today. What this will do is help us realize the benefit of statewide contracts, as well as using combis so we can obtain the best pricing for what we're purchasing. So we're going to open that up to our neighboring communities in the North Shore as well. And I know Nikki had a little brief training, and she was all excited. So looking forward to this training as well. And then this Friday, this weekend, is the MMA's annual meeting and conference in Boston. I will be there, as well as Jackie will be there, Chris Holak will be there, and Sherry LeBlanc will be there. So we'll have 4 representatives, some great sessions that we're going to all split up and divide and conquer. So we're looking forward to bringing back some best practices to Wenham. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I have a couple of reports that I'm going to announce 2 obituaries. One, his name is Joyce Wagner. This was in the Chronicle / what do we call it now? Tribune or something like that. We don't know. Joyce Wagner, just a pretty accomplished lady, is why I'm reading it. She was 92 years old when she died recently on December 29th. She's an inventor, lifetime learner. She also played the piano, guitar, trombone, and enjoyed music throughout her life. She was active with local brass band and loved to play the piano. Joyce felt a responsibility to her community, which is why I'm reading this, and served in a variety of ways. She was president of the Friends of the Wenham Public Library, served as the Village Improvement Society, worked on the board of Wenham Housing Authority, and worked with the League of Women Voters. and taught Sunday school in the First Church. And led a Girl Scout troop along the way and coached girls softball. So that's a hell of a lot of things to do for one person. So I thought she deserved a little mention on my part, and that I was very, very impressed with that. And that Bill Tyek's father died. His name was John Tyek. He was also 92. And that he happened to be he retired at age 57, so he had a 35-year retirement. So I'm hoping to at least see if I can match that 35 years in retirement. He also, we're sorry for his passing with Bill, and that he died on January 3rd this year. And he was worked for the telephone company as an installer and splicer, which is what my grandfather did, which is one of the reasons it caught my attention. And condolences to Bill, but a long life lived by Bill's father, John Tyek. And that's all I have. So now we go on to
Me, I think?
Yes, consent agenda.
consent agenda is you.
So I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve all items in the consent agenda, including a one-day liquor license request, Debbie Baker, First Church in Wenham, on 90th birthday party, Saturday, February 8th, 2020, from 2 to 5 p.m.
Must be something in the water in the winter. People are just leaving it alone.
It works for me. And a number of sets of minutes. These are all in 2019. So they're open session of September 17, October 1, October 15, November 5, November 19, and December 3rd, as well as executive session of November 5th. The motion would allow the November 5th executive session minutes to be released. Everyone should have received all of these minutes, although they were not in our original packet. So if everyone is ready, I will make that motion, and someone can second it.
You just make it.
I did.
Second.
Move that. Anybody have any
I
comments,
have no
questions?
questions.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
All right. Now, is Mary Ann here again? Let's see her.
Jackie, what happened?
I don't know. She said she was gonna be here. I'm surprised. Either her and Ron Dodge were supposed to be here. I'm not sure where they are.
Okay.
That's
Well, we have a request from Wenham Connects, Mary Ann Cannon, to talk about the Wenham Connects issue. I don't know if you know more about that, Anthony, or could talk to the subject, or should we?
So they were coming here today to do one of their biannual updates to the Board of Selectmen, and then one of the issues that they wanted to discuss with you is extending the term beyond 6/30/2020. So in my memo, I said one of the ways that we can do this is we can come back at a future meeting and just amend the charge, and then ask everybody to just reapply with all the other committee appointments that you do in the early summer. So that's that. I don't know if Jackie, do you know about the all-service?
Give a quick synopsis. So the Wenham Connects Committee obviously looks at a lot of different policy areas in how age and dementia-friendly policies affect those policy areas. And something that they're hoping to do to build momentum about Wenham Connects and how many people know about it is have an all-service day. So they're looking to recruit community organizations throughout Wenham to have an all-town service day on May 9th. So they're working to reach out to different community organizations, Gordon College. They're going to pick some kind of project, some kind of cleanup project. That's why they're looking at the springtime, and do a town-wide cleanup day. So they're looking for support from the Board of Selectmen in doing some outreach and promotion for that community-wide cleanup day. So that's what they're looking for at this time, and I know Mary Ann had sent something in about it as well.
It's just in that packet.
Who's got this one?
It's John, but we don't really, the motions look like they were discussion dependent.
It was discussion dependent.
So,
Yes.
are we going to wait until
think we
next
should
time when we have
Yeah.
Mary Ann,
I
and
think
Let
so.
her and Wen.
so we can actually
think so.
have specific motions?
And I can amend that charge if you'd like, and come back with a proposed amended charge for extending that committee.
Okay.
And then we can maybe do it all at one time.
Okay.
Thank you, Anthony.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the next one's
Jack?
Jack for,
Actually,
would you,
Not Mike, then. I don't-
yeah, it is.
A proclamation from,
no, you have last session.
I think we're going back and forth, okay. Appointment of treasurer collector.
Right.
Turn it over to me. If I can.
Anything else on that?
Yeah, so, Mr. Chairman and Board, we had 11 applications, as I mentioned at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting. The best application that I saw came from one of our current employees. Although only with us for the little shorter period of time that I've been in here, she's already made a great impact, and she has a willingness to learn that position. I'm very confident in her abilities, and recommending for the board to appoint Sherry LeBlanc as our treasurer collector.
Could we get you to come up, Sherry? Would you mind?
I mean, I did write something in case you forced it, but or not.
That's okay, no problem.
No, just
We're
know
going
that
to
I.
force it, people should see your face.
You want me
Yeah.
to read it? All right.
The podium.
No pressure.
None
No,
whatsoever.
it's just a thank you. It's just,
We already love you, so
That's right.
no
oh,
pressure.
that helps. That helps
Yeah,
take
right?
the pressure off a little bit. So I just obviously want to say thank you. Let me put my starburst down. Obviously, thank you to Jack, John, and Catherine. Thank you to Anthony, Chris, and Dawn, our interim treasurer, as well as many others who have given me the confidence in putting myself out there to try this new position. I'm obviously truly honored. I mean, obviously, during my short time here, I've already developed great working relationships. I've gotten to meet many of the town's residents, and I truly couldn't be more blessed to be here, not only just professionally, but personally as well. Working so close to home and getting to spend more time with my daughters is obviously a significant gain. So this is why I see myself obviously being here long-term, and why I decided to put myself out there. So together with Chris, I hope we can organize and maintain the finance department, and I'm confident that we can make this department into something efficient and great. So thanks again.
Thanks, Sherry.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Lucky.
Yeah, so there'll be a little bit of additional training that I would set up for Sherry, as we would normally do with anybody coming in. So, and we do have the money in the finance budget because of the salary savings that we've had going without these positions. So, looking forward to good things to come.
We have a past precedent of bringing people in to help out new employees, so that's not going to be anything new to that office or to
right.
this town hall.
That's right.
It does mean, however, now that we have an open position. Yes? That
Yes.
we'll be posting for.
We'll be posting for that tomorrow.
It should be, is it the same posting as it was before?
It's the same. It'll be the same posting, and we did have some good response. And we're also trying to get that word out there. This will be a great weekend for us to kind of tackle people at the conference and see if they're interested in coming to Wenham. So, yeah.
Well, I've only heard and seen great things from Sherry, so we're happy to have her in this position. Wish you, Sherry, and Chris a lot of luck working together. Take a little luck and a lot of hard work. So,
We have to move to appoint Sherry
yeah,
as the
that's you. Yep.
It's up there.
treasurer collector.
Mm-hmm.
Do I hear a second?
Should we give the date?
It's up here if you want. Somebody.
January 22nd, 2020, grade 6. Annual salary, $73,000. As long as she comes to work tomorrow morning.
That'll be the big question. Second. I will second that
Further
motion.
discussion.
None.
All in
Thank you.
favor? Aye. Congratulations, Sherry. Thank you for coming.
Congratulations.
People can see your face. Wenham Pines update, that's you, Catherine.
It is. So I'm going to probably pass this to Margaret, I think. But we've had Wenham Pines before the planning board in the last couple of weeks, asking for some modifications, and, yeah. Margaret? Go for it. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
As you probably are aware, Wenham Pines came before the planning board on January 9th and requested an amendment to their current approved plan. They want to simply be able to allow a smaller unit than they're currently marketing. So right now, the units that they have, can you go to the next slide, Anthony? Yeah. The existing floor area of the current units is over 3,000 square feet. And what they've told the planning board is that people have come in, they're interested in the development itself, but that the units are a little bit too big. And they'd like to be able to offer a smaller unit, a one-story, rather than 2 stories. So the proposed has a slightly different footprint because they're putting more amenities on one floor rather than dividing them up between the 2 floors. The planning board saw it and really didn't see any issue, and in fact, they felt that it would be helpful to the project to get sales moving a little bit. From what Wenham Pines told us, they're able to offer a smaller unit at a lesser price. The planning board voted to approve that with the condition that the Board of Selectmen look at it and approve it. And I know the Board of Selectmen had some concerns about the host community agreement and whether this amendment would affect that. From what I've spoken to Robin Stein, Town Council, and she felt that the Board of Selectmen had the discretion to determine whether those changes were sufficient enough to affect the host community agreement. We didn't see anything in this host community agreement that would be affected by this change. It's a fairly minor change. No other changes are proposed to the project. They're still within the footprints. Open space remains the same. The number of units remains the same. There's no other change. And the rest of the units that have not been built yet would be eligible to be offered either the smaller units or the larger units.
Question, you said the footprint would be the same, which is, I think...
The footprint is essentially the same. Did I say footprint? I'm sorry, I meant to say setbacks. Setbacks are the same.
Okay.
So there is no change in setbacks. They're not going to infringe
Expand
on...
a little bit since you're going to put more on one
Yeah,
floor?
if you look up here,
Yeah.
the black lines indicate the current footprint,
Yeah.
and the red lines indicate the proposed footprint.
Oh, okay.
Just see the bump
Yeah.
out.
So again, they have to be a little bit larger in the footprint because they're putting everything on one floor.
Yeah, I wouldn't see a problem with that. The benefit I can see from this is I assume there'll be a lower profile.
Slightly lower, yeah.
Lines and
It'll
so
be
forth.
very similar. Did you have did the next slide show the?
No,
No, it didn't,
no.
okay. I think we did have a picture of the proposed elevations, and they're trying to keep them very similar so that rather than the second story, there's more attic space.
Oh, okay.
But they won't be too different. Yeah. I can show you this. Oop. This is, excuse me. Oops.
Oh, it's just
Weird to be on the other side of the table.
This is the front and side elevations.
Okay, thank
So
you.
again, it's very similar to what they have.
That's okay, I'm familiar. I'm pretty familiar with this.
There you go. So what the planning board, again, did motion to approve it, just with the contingency that the Board of Selectmen also approved.
So, Margaret, it's your opinion that there are really no changes that need to be made to the HCA
No.
based on the planning
Yes,
board's change?
we do not see any changes that would need to be made to the host community agreement.
Okay. I just have one question. So if I understand correctly, and this really is not directly related to this, right now, the plan then, there will be 8 two-story units,
There are 3 buildings completed.
right?
So those are all 2-story. And I think, so if you look on here, it's units 2, 4. 2 and 4 are complete. 6 and 8 10, 12, and 14, 16 all have, are at different levels of completion. 14 and 16 have, I think, the second floor done, as do 10 and 12. I don't know. Oh, Tony, you are here. Tony, I thought you would be here.
Yes, you'll have the
Are
answer.
6 and 8, is 6 and 8 completed?
6 and 8 have foundation. and-
Foundation? But they will most likely be the
They're
two-story.
going to be the two-story
Yeah.
units also.
So everything on this side is,
Right. 1 and 3
Same.
will be a two-story, which is across the street from those 4. And then the plan is to do, actually, it could be a mix, the planning would approve, giving us the flexibility of doing 1 or 2 stories.
So that was going to
could
actually,
be a mix,
that was actually
yeah.
going to be my question. So the ones, so folks are going to have the option of a 1 or 2-story for the remaining buildings?
Yes.
See by market demand,
Okay,
correct.
yeah, okay. I have no other questions.
That's great you're paying attention to the market, because it does change. The market is changing a little bit, so
Well,
being flexible is,
There are people that do not want to go, walk up to a second
Sec-
floor,
yeah.
and they'd rather have everything on one level. So effectively, the building's gonna look the same, except the second floor will be all dead attic space. There'll be nothing up there.
Okay. Thank you.
So the first, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off. Were you done? I was going to say the first motion to this issue is that the Board of Selectmen accept the vote of the Planning Board approving Wenham Pines revisions with no further action necessary with the host community agreement.
Second that.
Further discussion?
No.
If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Okay. And then there's a second
the
part.
second part is the regulatory agreement that I think you have copies of there.
Yeah,
The,
agonizingly.
the regulatory agreement relates to the affordable units in the project.
Yep.
And it's their, it's the agreement that they will remain affordable.
So it's
And
the,
it's the conditions of their affordability.
so it's the legal document that
Yeah.
makes them affordable, puts them on our SHI, right?
Yes. yeah.
Allows them to
It
be
will-
on the
Yes, it'll
SHI.
allow them to be included on the SHI.
And would be, I think, in perpetuity, provided
yes.
conditions
Yep,
stay the
it's
same.
in perpetuity.
And can you remind us when those units are going to be built?
Those
Could
two
ask Tony
units,
this, but I
yeah,
think
those two
both
units
of you
have to
know.
be-
Whoever wants to answer that.
Yep,
By the time we ask for a CO on the 10th.
on the 10th
those
unit.
3 units need to be completed.
Okay,
That's in the planning board decision.
right.
Yeah.
Do you have an estimated date for that by any chance? I
Mm-hmm.
know that's a hard question.
You know, it could be next year,
Okay,
probably in maybe 2021.
okay. Those are going to be lovely, affordable houses, affordable units. So the second motion then is that the Board of Selectmen approve the local initiative program regulatory agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants for ownership project. Is there a second? Further
No
discussion?
further questions?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we're all set with that.
Those
Is there anything else?
documents, Anthony,
No, that's
Mr.
it.
Gooding said she would pick those up with Nikki tomorrow. after
Okay,
they're signed
so
by
we'll
the
get them
board.
signed and,
Yeah.
all right.
That way, the last ones we had.
Yep, 3 copies. We'll make sure we sign them.
Great.
You want to take that back?
Thank you.
Thanks, Margaret.
Thank
Margaret,
you.
thank you.
Maplewood CPC.
Good luck.
Good luck. Really good luck.
So that, the original CPC grant agreement that you executed in, I believe it was the fall, beginning of the fall, ran through December 31st in 2019. So we needed to amend and modify that agreement and at the request of Mr. DeFranza and Harbor Light to extend that through June 30th, 2020. So the amended document, what you're taking is a vote tonight to do so.
Yes, I have this item. Let me read a couple of, I'm going to read, so we want to.
Sure.
This is an email from Anthony to Anna DeFranza. Hi, Andrew. On January 13th. The attached CPC grant agreement expired on December 31, 2019. I'd like to get an extension, as Anthony just talked about, before the selectmen on next Tuesday, which is tonight, but I need an email from you or to Jackie that you are requesting an extension and until what date. Please get back to me ASAP. I need to have all this information by the end of Wednesday in order to get in the package. This is Andrew's response. It's nice to hear from you. Right. Thank you for this. Please accept this email as a request for a 6-month extension of this agreement. If it was reasonable, I would request a longer extension as so to avoid folks having to do this again, should it be needed. I'm not sure if that was a problem somehow. It is reasonable. If it is reasonable, I'm happy to send a follow-up request. Well, whatever. As an aside, he didn't say that, I'm saying that. As an aside, we can confirm that the reason an extension is needed at this point is to accommodate our current request to the ZBA for an amendment to the permit accommodating the settlement conditions, question mark. Many thanks, Andrew. And so, before I start putting this up for further discussion, whatever, I'll just read the motion, which is already up there. Move that the Board of Selectmen approve the amended and restated Community Preservation Act grant agreement for the Maplewood Senior Affordable Housing Project through June 30th, 2020. I'll stop it. Do I hear a second, by the way?
Second.
Okay. Further discussion?
Just a couple things. So just to clarify, this is not an extension of the agreement. The
Right.
CPC agreement is an extension of one condition of the agreement that would have
Yes.
required a comprehensive permit plus the 20-day appeal period to have been completed by December 31st.
Right.
So that's the only thing that this is
Right.
amending. I'll editorialize only briefly, and that it's happy to accommodate this, but not an auspicious start, because the agreement that we all signed said that this would happen, and that if the Board of Selectmen had the ability to extend the deadline, but
Not the obligation.
not the obligation. And from a process point of view, that's me, the request for extension didn't even come until after the deadline. So technically, and this is not what any of us want, which is why we're doing this, technically, as of December 31st, they were not in compliance with the agreement, and we would have had the right to say, sorry, no CPC money. But that's not what we want, so it did require, and I was glad that legal looked at this carefully, it did require what do they call it? An amended and restated Community Preservation Act grant agreement. But I guess my cautionary tale is whoever is following this needs to be pretty careful, because this condition, the selectmen have the authority to amend. Many of the conditions we don't. So they don't happen, there's no recourse. So that's my just little editorial.
Well, I would agree with you, and that I'm disappointed as well, and that I sent Anthony, the friends, an email maybe 7 weeks ago saying, hey, what's up? And this is after the Affordable Housing Trust approved the additional funds of $250,000, as I reminded him that Harbor Light asked for a minimum of $1 million between CPC and Affordable Housing Trust. The town, between the two of them, voted to give them and this project $1 million as the minimum requested, but I didn't hear back from him at all, and that and the fact that he wasn't on top of this deadline is disappointing.
Yeah.
But we're not going to penalize him at this point, and that I guess, and that so we'd like a little better communication, I think, is the at a minimum, and there's a ZBA meeting. Is it?
There's already
week
been
still,
one.
yeah.
There's already been one hearing last week.
February 20th.
Okay.
It was continued. The ZBA wished to have more detailed information.
Until when is it?
February 20th.
February 20th.
Okay. That's the day, the last day, submit papers to. Okay, just remember that day.
Thursday.
So, Andrew, please be on top of this and communicate more effectively and frequently about this, and it would be helpful so we can help you.
Right.
So, further discussion?
No, just a reminder that this, should we approve this agreement, that, again, has to be signed by the Harbor Light Board and us.
Yeah.
So,
So we were looking for an expeditious signing by the Harbor Light Board after we approve this and send you the paperwork.
yeah,
Andrew,
hopefully
if you're listening.
before this next ZBA meeting would be nice.
Before the next CPA meeting would be nice. And so
Yeah.
the ball's in your court, please. We're doing everything we can to help you. You need to help yourself along the way here.
Right.
I don't want to be more admonitions.
No, that's, just the
Johnny?
point.
All set.
Want-
All
Ready
in
to
favor?
vote?
Aye.
Voted unanimously. Okay. Intermunicipal agreement renewal, shared inspectional services, John.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
All right, back in October of 2018, Wenham took the lead to work with the town of Hamilton to combine our inspectional services, which is the building inspector, the electrical inspector, and the plumbing inspector. All of those three boards report to the town of Wenham as the host community, and we work together to make sure, and Jackie, I'm sure you're well aware of all of this, so if I'm saying anything out of turn, let me know. And it has been working quite well, because we had a lot of problems prior to this being set up, and this seems to have corrected all the problems, and at least I've heard of none. Okay, thank you, Jackie. So this is just a renewal of that agreement, and everything will stay the same as it has been for the last year and a half. So I recommend that the board approve this, and I can read the motion. I move that the Board of Selectmen vote to extend the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Hamilton for shared inspectional services from July 1st, 2020 through June 30, 2021.
I'll second that.
Any further questions?
Just a quick one. It says here, and I presume that the Board of Selectmen in Hamilton has agreed to extend the agreement, and at their, it says on their January 27th meeting. So
Yeah, so they're going for the 27th. So both communities, this was one of those contracts where you actually had to take a vote in order, by January 15th, in order for it to renew. Normally, it's that it would automatically renew unless you say you don't want to renew. So,
Okay, I didn't realize that.
yeah, and Joe and Hamilton brought it to my attention after the fact, and it slipped his mind. He was new to it too. So, both towns put their budgets together as if we were going into this. The intention is to continue on. So town council said, as long as the intention to continue is there, take it at your next meeting. So we're taking our vote this meeting, and the Hamilton Board of Selectmen will take it on next Monday.
But you have no indication that they wouldn't vote favorably on this, is that right?
No, I think they'll vote favorable on this. Yeah, one thing that they'd like to see is maybe we can rework it so it doesn't have to take that annual vote, and we can just do the opt-out vote.
Oh, so in
that
other
was-
words, it stays in force
Makes sense.
unless
Yeah.
we choose
Not to.
not to.
Right.
Yeah.
So Joe had talked to me about that. We certainly were inclusive with them when we hired the building inspector. We offered their planning director to sit in the interviews with Jackie. Myself and Joe were both invited. We couldn't do it for scheduling reasons, but Margaret was there. So, and they want that. They want to be included as we would like to be included, but ultimately the appointing authority is the Board of Selectmen here in Wenham. So that's where, no problem to work together at it, but it's still one board that does the appointment, the host community.
it seems reasonable for the first couple of years for us to have, as we have, an actual date that we have to say, yes, we want to do it. But after that, I agree, it's probably an opt-out situation once we have an established working relationship that seems to be
Right.
working. Maybe next year.
Yeah.
We also have to appoint the plumbing and electrical inspectors, and so they have to vote, we have to vote, so this, even though we have an intermunicipal agreement, we still, there's a selection of the people who are in charge of plumbing and electrical, which is,
Do they vote, or do we vote? We appoint.
Yes, they do.
They vote?
Do they too?
They
We're the
did.
hiring authority, but legally for them to inspect in the community, both boards do have to legally appoint them.
Have to approve.
which is what we did last year in the joint meeting.
Correct, but you're the hiring authority.
Yeah,
Right, but nevertheless, the two towns have to agree upon those two,
Right.
otherwise it's kind of messy.
So that they can actually legally inspect.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm ready to,
Yeah,
do we need to
Thank you,
vote on
Jackie.
that?
Thanks.
we do.
All set?
Just ready to vote, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All
Great.
set. Thank you, Jack.
Wenham Day, that's me. Okay, the board has expressed return, as I said in the beginning of the meeting, for return to Wenham Day, and has agreed to form a committee to undertake the work associated with planning for this annual event. The proposed charge is as follows. Conduct outreach to the community to ask for feedback on previous activities offered at Wenham Day. Partner with local businesses, community organizations, nonprofits, and the town departments to develop a yearly event that will appeal to all ages and encourage the greater participation of all Wenham residents and friends. Plan to coordinate a day of the recreational, educational, and cultural benefit of the community that will serve to unite residents and celebrate life in Wenham. Hopefully it's fun for the kids, actually. Just not in here, but it should be. Work with the Board of Selectmen to develop a strategy to fundraise for the event, if indeed it's really required. I'm not sure that in the past, the Wenham Museum who conducted this needed to subsidize it at all. I don't think so, but if necessary, we would be looking for that, but I hope it would be de minimis or not needed. Just editorial comments on my part. Create marketing materials, disseminate information about the event, which needs to be done soon because the vendors who come to these events need to scribble in the calendar months in advance where they're going to be during the summertime to show their wares, which is a very important part of the previous Wenham Day celebrations that were conducted by the museum. Lastly, encourage the support of other community organizations to participate in highlighting the group's mission, offering opportunities, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't say et cetera. So, move, this is the motion itself. I got a different one here. Move that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 10, to open the warrants.
No, no, it's-
I'm on the next one.
Yeah.
God almighty. Let me go
You
back.
jumped.
I was going to say, wow.
Okay, well, oh, this is
Yell
easy.
about
That was it, that's all it is. Move the Board of Selectmen adopt the proposed Wenham Day committee charge.
Besides
Sorry.
that,
Further discussion.
No
just a
questions.
question. So this is the charge, and then at some date soon, we're going to ask for letters of interest.
We've
And
already done that. We did this the last meeting.
and when did we say we were going to appoint?
We didn't say, but I've already submitted my letter.
we have a
of
date?
interest, So I know that,
Did we give a,
We requested letters of interest by the 29th, but obviously if we don't get enough, then we'll have to extend that.
right. And I presume that makes sense anyway to me, that this is a off-cycle appointment from like November to
Yeah.
December, which makes sense, I guess, because if we appointed in June and they had this in August, that would never work.
Right.
I assume that was the reason. Yeah.
Right.
Great.
So it's up to 7 members. Do we have anybody other than myself volunteering to be on this committee?
Not officially, but.
Am I a committee of one so far?
Volunteered, I'm sure they'll sign up.
Better draw,
They
Jack.
actually may discourage, I don't know. We're looking for 5 to 7 members, and that anybody who's been around town for Wenham any length of time knows what a huge turnout we had for Wenham Day. And the fire department did a great job, with everything you guys do with the foam and the kids jumping into it, and that's great. And that the food vendors and the artisans and that the whole thing. There was last year, I think, that we opened up Town Hall. I think it was more than the restrooms that were needed, but we opened up Town Hall and gave little tours to the extent we have stuff to do tour here. So again, I think it was a big disappointment that couldn't have it last year, but I'm hoping we can replicate more or less what the museum was doing for many, many years, and without actually having to subsidize it. So that's the hope, and that looking for people who are interested in joining the committee to get going on this, and that because we really have to get going. This is even though August seems like a long way away, it's we need to finish this up in the next couple of months to let people know, hey, you're interested in coming, and get the list of people who used to come from the Wenham Museum, who I'm told is want to be very cooperative in terms of transitioning the knowledge of the event in the past to us, and wish us luck. And they've also allowed us to, I'm told, to use their front lawn, right? And that, what am I saying right to? I'm saying right to Nikki, but it, who's the lead person on the administration on this?
Diane Bucco.
Okay, she's not here. All right.
So somebody has reached out
She left
to the
with the
Wenham
cute-
Museum, I assume. then.
She left as soon as the cute dog thing was here. Okay. Okay, so there's 2 of us anyway, Dan and myself, and so we need 4 or 5 other people. So if you value this as much as we do, please submit a letter of interest to join the committee. Thank you.
Did we vote?
Dr.
Not yet.
Wenham Day Committee Charge. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll move it.
Second it.
I'm
All in
set.
favor?
Aye.
For the discussion, we've already voted.
Yeah.
I hit that backwards.
That's okay.
All right.
Sometimes it's good to do that.
Yeah. Next, we get to the heavy moving stuff, AI Annual Town Meeting, April 4th. You, Catherine.
Right, so there are a few action items under this agenda item to open the town warrant, to review and put some draft articles on the warrant and discuss potential approval for a backup town meeting date. Do we want to take those things one at a time?
Yeah.
It's your lead.
Okay. So the first motion is a motion that the Board of Selectmen vote pursuant to MGL Chapter 39, Section 10, to open the warrant for the Saturday, April 4th, 2020 annual and special town meetings forthwith. Somebody's been watching the cop show. And to close said warrants on Tuesday, February 25th, 2020. Said town meetings to be held in the Perkins Auditorium, Bessie Bucher Elementary School, 1 School Street, Wenham.
Why don't we put in special town meeting in there? Why is it?
Apparently,
Well,
we
in the
need
event, one of the articles, if it makes it into the warrant, is the meals tax. So we could do that in a special, and then 30 days later, take effect and start collecting the revenue.
Okay. All right. I thought sometimes you have to have a special town meeting if you have bills that weren't paid for the prior year, and you have to move it to a special town meeting.
Yeah.
It's usually a 2-minute meeting prior to it. I thought that might have been the purpose.
Or if we can get action quicker before July 1st, because everything from town meeting doesn't take effect till July 1st, so we could do a quick special.
So that's the first motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Do we need any more discussion for that particular motion, opening the warrant tonight? Okay,
Nothing.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And if I may, it seems like rather than going directly to looking at the draft articles, which could be a little timely, maybe we can get number 3 out of the way, which is to discuss and possibly approve backup town meeting dates, since we're talking about town meeting. And I believe, Anthony, you'd given us some suggestions.
I have, yes. So with town meeting on the 4th, because the election is on the, the 9th. So we had spoken to the Bucher School and have asked them to hold the 6th, 7th, and 8th. So I would think maybe getting 2 of those days, one is a backup to the backup, or in case town meeting. If you did have to go on a night and it extended and we needed a second night, it would just be that second night.
You know, I remember, I don't think it was the last meeting, it was 2 town meetings ago that we couldn't finish in time. We had to have,
Right.
and so I remember I volunteered a date and was soundly defeated on that, and that from the people who were left in the room.
Right.
And that, I think was it a weeknight or a Saturday? I couldn't remember. And that,
Saturday.
It was a Saturday.
It was a
Yeah.
That
Saturday,
they rejected.
yeah.
Sorry, Abby.
Well, and it was also, sort of on the spot. You know, we were trying to.
Yeah, we were just.
Realize
yeah.
we hadn't done it in advance, hadn't told people in advance, if we don't finish this day, we're
between
going
the
to finish
booze
this
and
day.
the, so that no one wanted, well, the people who were most vocal, they were vocal, they didn't want a meeting the following Saturday. And that, so to continue the existing town meeting, it's not like we had to, and so we ended up with a Monday or Tuesday night or something like that, right?
Right.
So it looks like a weeknight is what the preference would be, based on the small minority of people who expressed a very vocal opinion. They didn't want to be on the Saturday, so we'll have to let those people wishes carry over to an
And
alternative date.
these dates, I believe, the 6th and the 7th are Monday.
Monday,
Monday,
Tuesday,
Tuesday,
or
Wednesday.
Wednesday. Elections are Thursday.
Right. When I looked at the calendar, the only thing that I noticed was that the 8th is the first day of Passover. So if we were going to Tuesdays, it might be some advantage to the 6th and or 7th. I don't know, do we need 2?
Don't we need
A
one?
backup to, we need 1.
We need one.
We need one, and then we would just tell them to hold that date just in case
We're
it,
just telling the Bucher School to hold those dates right now.
yeah.
Okay. So I guess then the motion would be that the Board of Selectmen vote to approve April
Sixth.
6th, 2020, and April 7th, 2020 for potential backup
Yeah,
dates,
Right,
right? For the annual special town meeting.
right.
Does that work?
That works for me.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't read it from there because I
That's fine.
have it here. Is it the same?
Yep.
Yeah, I just put in the dates.
Yep, it's
So the
fine.
6th and the 7th, so potentially Monday or Tuesday of the week following the town meeting. Is there a second?
I think we should probably announce that at the beginning of the town meeting in case we can't finish and get sort of a sense of the members who showed up to begin the town meeting. If we couldn't finish in time, would people prefer either the 6th or the 7th or something like that? Instead of just having the remnants of the people who we no longer have a quorum. And so I don't think that's really participatory for everyone.
I was going to say, if you just stuck with the 6th and the backup the 7th, we could print it so in the warrant book, so people can this way plan accordingly and know what the backup date is, other than coming that day and you get into a situation where we may not accommodate if somebody says
Good idea.
something.
I agree with that.
And if we get into the habit of having our town meeting on Saturday with a backup date on Monday, people will eventually
I
get
think
the
that's-
idea that
yeah. After
that's
10
what
years or so,
happens.
they'll.
10, 15 maybe.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
So I think we need, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So now we can go back to the warrant articles, which I'm going to turn right over to Anthony.
Yeah, so we're going to have Jackie come up because
was gonna
Jackie is
turn it right
working
over.
so diligently on this, and that Jackie's going to, want to take this?
You can click on it.
All right, I'll click.
That's you like that clicker
I do,
more than
thank you.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi, hello again. So I'm very quickly going to go through, we already have these 5 articles prepared for you. These are all from the list that we talked about in December when I was here to discuss warrant articles, and these all should look quite familiar. There are annual articles that we deal with on a regular basis. So first being the cemetery and other trust funds. This is the standard acceptance article that allows us to spend from the cemetery perpetual care trusts. So I met with Gary on both of the cemetery-related articles, and he's all set. This is not the one that has a monetary value. This is just the acceptance of that accrual that happens every year. This is the cemetery maintenance fund transfer. Again, same language that we've seen in years past. I will say I met with Gary and he reviewed the actuals for the cemetery commission over the last few months, and he actually recommended that we seek to only transfer $6,000 this year rather than the traditional $7,500 due to the actual sales that have been happening for the sale of cemetery lots.
More people die?
Less people.
Less people.
Well, fewer people buying plots. That's fewer sale of cemetery lots. So based on those actuals, Gary asked that we reduce that number not to exceed 6,000 rather than not to exceed 7,500. And then moving further, this is our annual acceptance of road work for Chapter 90. As in years past, we've historically had around $150,000 in Chapter 90. We don't expect that to increase. However, we don't include the dollar amount in the article just in case the state has some sort of windfall. You never expect it, but it would be great. This year, we actually did get additional surplus funding from the state for Chapter 90, but we do not have to go back and accept those additional funds because we have worded the article in this way, so we're going to continue to do so in case the state wants to give us more money. We don't want to turn it down by any means. So that's Chapter 90. And then we have had this article for the past few years. So about 3 years ago, the water department had a capital expense drop off, and they proposed, rather than no longer including that expenditure, to transfer $35,000 from their operating budget to their capital reserve account, and this is starting to create a nest egg for when our water infrastructure needs major significant replacement. Our current infrastructure is about 40 years old, so this is just going to be, a start to the cost of that replacement work, but at least the town gets going on that reserve account so that, if we had to bond some work or needed to do a quick investment before that work could begin, if we were going into debt for that infrastructure work, we'd have some seed money to get started, which will be really critical, when the time comes for that work. And then lastly, this is just for the election of the town officers. We may add ballot questions later, depending on the board's position on different policy funding options, whether the board decides to go with a levy limit budget or has to discuss override options. Those ballot questions may be added, but this is just the election of town officers, as you see every year. So they're all very traditional articles, the ones we see from year to year. We haven't changed the language. Everything, was what we've worked on with KP in years past. So we thought it would be a good night to kick off these warrant articles with you so that we could kind of not have to worry about them for the rest of the season.
Good idea.
Great.
So before I make the motion in this case, is there any discussion about any of them? No. Okay. I will move that the Board of Selectmen vote to insert the following articles onto the warrant for the April 4th, 2020 annual special town meeting, subject to approval as to form by town council, including cemetery and other trust funds, cemetery maintenance fund transfer, road work. I always now have this fear that what it says up there is different than what I'm reading. Road work, Chapter 90 funding, transfer from water operating budget to water capital reserve fund, and election of town officers and ballot questions.
Second?
Question, this is just to get them onto the warrant.
Correct.
This doesn't designate a location on the warrant.
Not at all.
So we'll still be able to jump.
Yeah.
This is just putting them on.
Okay.
Just getting in.
And we'll also later, John, have on an agenda your recommendations.
Good.
What was
Thank
your
you.
question again, John? What was your
That
point?
this gets them onto the warrant.
Yeah.
It doesn't put them in a location on the warrant.
Oh, yeah.
Doesn't order them.
Yeah,
Or-
so they're not the first 5.
All right, I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, if we're ready to vote, all in favor of putting those on the warrant?
Aye.
Wow, 5 on the warrant.
5 already.
5 already.
Good
And what is it,
progress.
January 21st?
Well, we'll see you at the next one for another 5.
Yeah, she's giving us, she's feeding us pablum.
Oh, we just did that one.
We did that.
Okay. Oh, gosh, I have the next one too. Okay, discussion and decision on policy options regarding budget to provide policy direction to the Finance and Advisory Committee and staff. I think there are some specific questions or policy directions Anthony would like us to take up tonight, so.
Yeah, so what we'd like to have the board take up tonight is the capital improvement program that is put together, which was in your budget books and also attached a copy in the packet, and it's also up on the screen for review. I don't know if you want to go through, some department heads are
Kinda
here.
fuzzy. Can you sharpen that up for people who can see it? I mean, I can't even read it. from here.
It's a copy.
Yeah.
All right.
It's the best we can
Was
do
the
on
first
that.
thing DPW front-end loader, is that what it says?
Yeah, front-end loader.
I have it in front of me, but I want to be sure that's the same thing that people think
So-
they're seeing up there.
Is it your expectation that we'll go through each one of these tonight? Or pick out ones that we,
That you maybe, if you've had an opportunity, you've heard from all the departments, I think you may have,
had one conversation about this
yeah,
already.
you may have had some, so if you have any that stand out that you have concerns about, need further clarification or questions, it'd be helpful for us.
Well, we just give it a shot.
Give what a shot?
Go through the lines.
Okay.
This is.
What, one by one?
I think so.
Okay. So-
I'm just making a suggestion. That,
Okay. Well, so, the DPW has 4 requests here. The first one is a front-end loader. It's a year 2, it's a already existing
Right.
piece of equipment. This is year 2 of 5-year lease, and the suggestion is $35,000 from the operating budget. So,
we don't
open
have any
that.
choice here. The answer is yes. Otherwise, we can't break the lease. We'll pay for it anyway.
So,
Right.
again, do we want to vote for our, this, I guess what we're really saying is this is our sort of recommendation to the Finance Committee, or
Right.
do we want to do that for each one?
I think so. Why don't we,
Yeah.
why don't we do
Yeah.
that?
Okay, so,
Some of these may not be able to have a unanimous vote or even any votes, but let's, for the ones we can, let's do it.
my sheet upstairs. Can I write on
if we
yours?
can maybe do, okay,
That's a
yeah,
suggestion. We
yeah,
can-
I'm just wondering if,
Good question. How about
Okay.
this?
so before I make a motion on that, I do actually have a question.
Don't go away.
No, I
Could
know.
someone define for me I guess I understand street road capital, that the whatever we use Chapter 90 funds for.
You're on in the next group. You
DPW.
didn't vote on the first one. Then.
Well, I guess I was kind of hoping in some of these, we might be able to vote an entire department. But
Okay.
we can vote them one at a
No,
time.
I'll
So
go
let's,
along with that.
since we have a line for each one. What's the pleasure? One at a time?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Yes.
All right, so I move that the Board of Selectmen recommend to the FinCom the, continued discussion, approval of
Yeah,
the DPW front-end loader,
second year lease, right.
second-year lease, $35,000 in the operating budget.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that one?
No.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The next one is the first of year one of 3 to replace a 1986 backhoe for the DPW at a cost of $40,000, which would, as proposed, to come out of the operating budget.
I'll second the motion.
Wasn't, yeah.
I move that we.
Yeah, she has to move it first.
So is there any discussion on that? No? All in favor of recommending that?
Aye.
Okay, aye. The next one is highway road capital, so I'll make a motion for the DPW to recommend approval, not recommend approval, I think, recommend to the FinCom that we are,
Our recommendation.
our
to
recommendation to the FinCom is $85,000 in the operating budget for highway road capital.
FinCom. I have a question.
Yeah, I do too. That was going to be my question.
What was it last year? That's my question.
Well, yeah, and my question is what's in it? So I guess we have a couple of
What's in the
questions on
road
that.
capital?
So the $85,000,
So that would be an additional, so the 150 is the Chapter 90, and that was 85,000 for additional roads and sidewalk repair. That would be done. Jackie has more of a history on that, because this is something that's...
What was the amount last year, if anything?
Was it 80? 80.
It was 80,000, and unfortunately, Bill Tyak couldn't be here tonight. The first 40,000 off the top of that 85 is just winter maintenance and repair from the storm damage every year, and so anything above and beyond that 40 is the other road projects that Bill has on his docket to get completed and get paved. But the first 40,000 of that local road funding is for winter damage and maintenance.
Did I answer your question? You have more?
did, no, it
No?
did. Did it answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Did I answer yours?
yes, it did.
Okay.
So I think I made a motion, and I think it
I'll
was
second
seconded.
it.
All in favor of that motion or recommendation to the FinCom?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, and the last one is sort of procedural. I don't know.
The last one?
The last one under the
The 150.
DPW is for the Board of Selectmen to recommend to FinCom an expenditure of, well, of $150,000, which would come from Chapter 90 funds for street road capital. Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's DPW. The next item is under facilities. It's a one-time expenditure for Council on Aging roof repair. This is expected to be $21,000 paid from free cash.
I'd like a clarification. I believe that should be roof replacement,
Yeah, I
not
think so,
roof
too.
repair.
Roof replacement.
Right.
Make sure that is correct.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's the right amount of money for a roof repair?
Replacement, sure.
Replacement, I'm sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay, and that's free cash, so that would be,
Well, this is an expenditure we're recommending, the source of the funds. We're recommending the Board of Selectmen recommend to the Finance Committee that we approve expenditure of $21,000. The fact that it may be
For that
coming from free
project.
cash to someplace else like that is irrelevant, I think, for this conversation.
well, I don't know. I think I might have a different opinion of some of these, depending on their source. I happen to, if this were not coming from free cash, might have a different opinion of it, I guess. That's the only reason I say that, because, in this case where we have such a tight budget and such a tight free cash, I guess later we can have the discussion. I don't know if that's we can have the discussion of free cash and how much we want to spend, and the
Yeah, exactly.
FinCom
Well,
can
this is
decide.
our recommendation, but what would another heading be that you would look for
Well,
to go on
someone
there?
could suggest that it come out of the operating budget, or,
I think we need to do that when we're all said and done here, and that,
Okay.
you know, I think that when we're all said and done, how much is coming out of, what's on the override, what's on the operating, what's some free
Okay.
cash? And so, we're not gonna get there for quite a while.
okay,
So I
so this
This
is
is not the
just.
final.
I don't think
final-
designated now is useful, that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay, no problem. So this then is a motion to just recommend
Yeah. 21,000.
$21,000 for Council on Aging roof
Fix the roof,
replacement.
so, you know, it doesn't leak on,
Replace the roof. Is there
replace the roof,
a
I'm sorry.
second?
Second, I already, yeah, right.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The next one is land use. This is actually bigger than land use. I think it probably would be coordinated through land use, but it is the infamous master plan. It's a one-time cost of $100,000. So I would make a motion.
Is there more information on this, Anthony? Because I do not understand this at all, and that's a lot of money to be spending. Go ahead, Jackie.
May I?
Yeah.
You may.
So we actually did discuss this with the FinCom last week as well, and unfortunately Margaret already left for the night. So we, as you know, have finished a lot of our area plans in the last few years. The open space plan, the age and dementia friendly plan is finishing up, and we also have an action plan from the Affordable Housing Trust. And we also have now a really great functioning capital plan, as evidenced tonight. We're using it, which is great. So with all of the momentum of those plans being done, there can be some cost savings to the town in terms of getting a master plan completed. A master plan would provide us, it does feel like a large investment in 1 year. However, it could really provide fiscal benefit to the town over the next few decades, because we would get some policy input from the community in terms of economic development, in terms of housing, in terms of where the community sees itself, you know, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15, in 20. So we already have several of those plans complete, and if we move forward on the master plan next year, those plans won't be so out of date that we can't include them in the master plan. So this actually will save us some money towards the master plan by doing it sooner rather than later, which is why we're looking to fund it out of free cash as a one-time cost for next year.
Further question then. Does it have a utilitarian advantage to doing this in this budget
Yeah.
season? As opposed to putting it
As
off,
soon as,
say, till next year?
no, as soon as possible you want to do it, because right now, when we apply for grants, and Jackie did a great job explaining this to FinCom last week, which they were really behind this. They didn't vote, but they were certainly, sounded like they were behind the master plan. But when you have to check off certain boxes, and it says, does your community have a master plan?
Yep.
We have to check no. So right away, that takes a lot of points off of grants. So
This applies to grant permissions.
it also is, yes, the state wants to know that you're doing your best practices, and you have a vision and a direction for where your community wants to go to, and they reward you for doing that. So this is a really important piece for us to continue to get grants, not only for grant purposes, but really drive the direction of this community in the way that the citizens want it to go into.
Okay,
And I think,
thank you.
I think, John, to Anthony's point even further, I think, you know, we're going to have a lot of discussions, the Board of Selectmen and the Finance and Advisory Committee, as well as town meeting, about the financial viability of the community. Obviously, finances are at the utmost of everyone's thinking when it comes to town meeting this year, and the master plan is a really important tool for getting feedback on the community of how they'd like to see Wenham develop, so that when we are looking at these challenging fiscal times, we're starting to find longer-term solutions, because we know that overrides, we know that plugging free cash into the budget are short-term solutions to our financial problems. Having a master plan and having outreach from the community and a vision from the community will help staff and will help elected and appointed officials making decisions for the long-term fiscal health of the community, because we'll know what you're looking for when it comes to rezoning. We'll know what the community is looking for when it comes to what sorts of projects and special permits we have in our zoning bylaws. So it really can make a huge long-term, kind of not very tangible fiscal impact on on the community years and years from now.
So somebody will actually look at the documentation and say, oh,
They have to be
This
very
applies.
active documents. I think a great example is our open space plan that was adopted by the Commonwealth about a year and a half ago now. You know, they are knocking off the action items one by one, which is great for us in terms of that it makes us more eligible for open space related grants. But it also shows that we are not just leaving these documents on shelves. We are really, as staff and as boards and
getting to
committees,
my
putting them
Yeah.
into
Okay.
place.
And another thing, so in Littleton, when they did their master plan when I was there, after they did it, they had a master plan implementation committee, which was really charged with making sure and getting involved in all the other boards, so the vision of the master plan
Gets
came to
pulled in
fruition.
reason.
Yeah.
And just to
thank you. No, that
also
works.
to put a point on what Jackie said that hit home for me, is that in order to do this requires information from other groups, like the Affordable Housing Trust, Open Space and Recreation. And if we know from experience on the Affordable Housing Trust, when we went to do the action plan, we did that because our housing production plan had expired. And so we actually had to spend additional money to repeat some of that
Something
work.
To redo the work.
To redo the work. So if we don't wait too long to do the master plan, I'm hoping that all the plans that we've spent probably upwards of $50,000 on that already exist will not have to be redone in order to be incorporated in this master plan.
Less homework on our dime with the consultant.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie.
It is a lot of money.
It is, and all too often, studies and reports end up on shelves. And
Yeah. So
Absent a much more thorough discussion with the Board of Selectmen and somebody making a presentation, and considering that we have a several $100,000 deficit, I'm not in favor of this at this point.
okay.
But I could be convinced later on with a presentation here of why it's compelling to do it this year. There's $100,000. We need to cut several $100,000, and that if we cut this and don't fund it, at least we're not cutting any people in town or services to the people. And it might be a wise thing to do, but if we can't afford it right now, I'm not sure. I'm sure, unless I can convince otherwise, I'm not in favor of spending the money.
So I agree with that, and there are a few things on here that I would think I would benefit from further discussion with the FinCom. So I'm wondering if, at this point, rather than for me, rather than not recommending it, I would defer action on it until we're able to have more discussion with whoever
That's
else.
good.
To
That's
your
good.
point,
I'm good with that.
I think that works.
It's $100,000. It's not $5,000, so, yeah.
well, and it would be great if we had a grant identified, and I think the hope is that there will be a grant, but I've been championing, is that the word? A master plan for a long time, so I certainly am in favor of the concept. It just happens to be bad timing. I think, though, that we might be able to figure it out.
See,
So I guess that motion, based on the discussion, is to defer recommendation on this until a later date.
That's fair.
The next one is a little smaller. It's the Town Administrator Finance Department Compensation and Classification Study. This is a one-time action, $15,000.
I'm not in favor of this either. It's $15,000, and that they can get away without it. However, I could be convinced at some subsequent meeting, if somebody wants to make a presentation, to convince us why it's a compelling thing we need to do this year, even though it's only $15,000. So I'm not in favor of that unless I can be convinced it's compelling. That's just one person's opinion. I'm looking to cut money.
I would go along with you, Jack.
Okay, I'm going to be the lone voice on this one. Having lived through the last wage classification study and seeing that it's already out of date, and we need it. It's the backbone of every hiring, and not that much money. So I
think it's desirable, but I'm looking for things.
And I see your point, Catherine, that it does have a value.
Yep.
But how often have we hired using that and then found ourselves way out of proportion anyway?
Well, not as often, since we actually have had this. That's my point.
Yeah.
Before we had the original one, we were just like picking numbers. Now we've had some, discipline and some ranges that we hope, we think, our market ranges are equitable internally and externally. But it's now 4 years ago, and we have updated it a little, but I would like to, if we're going to continue using what we have, I would like to see a little more work done on really looking at the groupings again, to make sure that the changes that we've made make sense with the way that we did it originally, and to make sure that we're really, the market rates that we're putting in are done. If we had capacity, I imagine we would do this in-house, but I feel like I'm going to hear that we do not have capacity to do this in-house.
Yeah,
So,
I don't put a lot of faith in it. Look at the finance department recently. You know, we had to ignore, significantly ignore the proposed.
The guidances.
The guidance, exactly. And that, I think it's out of date 6 months after you do it, so that, or if it's out of date the day you do it. But anyway, that's, it's desirable to have, if we were flush and we weren't looking at a several $100,000 deficit, for $15,000, I would go along. If I can save $15,000 by doing it and going by the seat of our pants.
And just as a larger market problem to consider as we think about some of these issues, the market and the employment situation is so difficult today because the unemployment is so low that there are very few people available, and you end up having to steal. And does that mean you end up paying more to get somebody in?
Yep.
Or you just do without them? Or you
Yep.
hire somebody well underqualified? I mean, there's so many other components that come into hiring someone today than there used to be, because the economy is very powerful right now.
just another question on that. Would this plan have included the library matrix? So all non-union personnel. That's going to have to be done at one point or another because it's joint with Hamilton, right? So if they change the library wage table was a long-term process because people felt it was necessary to align with Hamilton's bigger wage. So that is going to have to get done next
That
year.
was a disaster.
Right, true. I'm trying to avoid saying
Year and a
that.
half
And
disaster.
so we'd be
But we're
wasting
gonna-
our time to do this on our own for the library without having a participation in Hamilton. We'd have to both agree on what the criteria is.
But
for
I
Hamilton.
think they do it every year, so I think, or every couple of years. So all I'm saying is that even though we may choose not to do this in full for the other non-union employees, I think we might have to do it for the library if.
Might have to do it for the library, exactly.
So,
In concert with the town of Hamilton, obviously.
right, so I think, am I hearing that this motion should be that the Board of Selectmen, I hate negative motions.
Defer it.
Well, are we deferring, or are you folks saying that you just don't want it to happen?
Well, it's a
Are we
nice
deferring
thing
the
to- it's a
vote,
ni-
or-
In my opinion, it's a nice thing to have, but there's a lot of nice things to have, and maybe this is one of those that we could do without. I think that's my point of view. I can't speak for Jack.
I'm against it, but I would be in favor of, if we have to do it, with the town of Hamilton allocating some amount of money to do the library, because there's a lot of employees there. It was a mess the last time, and that if the town of Hamilton feels the same about having a compensation study done for the town of Hamilton, for the library, I think we'd have to put some money in there to do that. But I would be in favor of that, but not anything else.
The only thing with looking at one entity and not the other departments is it could throw other departments out of range if the library was done and brought up to what the market is. The rest of the staff could be falling behind.
It took 2 years to resolve it with the town of Hamilton library, folks. It took at least 2 years, and there were many, many meetings, and
A real mess, a
it
real
was a real
fiasco.
mess. And I think you have to have, if you're going to do a study, it's everybody but the library. And the library in the town of Hamilton, as Catherine mentioned a minute ago, has to fit into their, whatever, the salary and wage plan. So there's a lot of questions we have to answer, I think, before we, approve this. And whether or not you fold in the library or not, I can see desirable to do so, but it didn't work the last time.
So I'm a little bit at a loss
You
of
can
how.
put down defer or no, whatever you want to do. I'm just not in favor of that, all at this time.
But you would be willing to revisit
Yeah.
it before we finalize the budget.
Yeah, particularly for the library, if indeed it's time for the library to have this updated salary and wage thing. If it's not time for the library and they don't need it next year, I'm not in favor of it. But I am in favor of it for the library. If the town of Hamilton feels we have to do it for that, the library feels we have to do it, then we have to do it. There's a lot of employees there. So I think I'm
Well, so
I'm not mumbling, I'm just,
from a policy point of view, I think I'm hearing that we would be in favor of doing this for the library only, but we don't have a dollar number to.
right.
So,
We can't do it unless the town of Hamilton says, yep, that's a good idea, we want to participate with you. If they don't want to participate, we're wasting our time just doing it for the library on our own,
so.
based on the last time.
Is it reasonable to ask for you to find out if Hamilton is intending to do this for next year for their entire, what their process is? And then, then we can defer our recommendation
And ask the library too.
until we know that.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I think I know the answer is yes, considering that Kim is during the whole budget process, has been bringing up the scale, and it needs to be adjusted, and she was adjusting it because the lowest wage now is actually below Massachusetts minimum wage, so I know the answer is it needs to get done. Whether or not Hamilton has plans for anything, I don't know, I can ask Joe. But I know it needs to get done.
But we went ahead last time on our own, and we met a brick wall, and it took 2 years to resolve the disparity between the two towns' opinion of what the wage classification should be for library. And so it was very, very messy. So we need more input on this from the town of Hamilton, certainly for the library.
So I think the motion is to defer final decision until we get a little bit more information about the library on this particular, and an amount, I guess, on this particular. And I think we should define defer meaning to another meeting before we finalize the budget.
Yep.
Which is, pretty soon. Okay, so that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in
I'm
favor?
just taking notes. Yeah, okay. Yes.
Yeah, hopefully Catherine's going to get this. So, all in favor? Yes, yes. I am not in favor of deferring it. I'm in favor of doing it. So that will be 2 yeses and a no,
Yeah,
but
thank you.
it does still majority defer.
Well, 1 yes and 2 defers.
Well, if the motion is to defer, we have 2 people who want to defer,
Yeah.
and 1 person who is in
Yeah, I get
favor
it.
of
I'll let you two
You
recommending.
didn't say it exactly that way, I'm just
Okay.
saying. Catherine Tinsley to get that down, that's all.
Do you have something that you can work with? Okay. So, next, the
Yes,
next
next- again-
items are fire.
Yeah, it's getting easier.
Yeah, it's going to get easier. So the first one on fire, and someone correct me if I'm wrong on this, the pumper fire truck, I believe is the truck that we already almost own, the $76,269 on our sheet.
Right, that's the last year of that payment.
Is the last year of the lease. So this is the pumper truck that we're just about to pay off.
So, lucky me, I had an hour-and-a-half meeting with the fire chief today.
This isn't the new pumper though, Jack. This is the one we already own.
This is the last year.
This is the last payment, so
Okay, we better approve this one, I guess, then.
Yeah, so this one maybe is pretty
Otherwise,
straightforward,
if-
Otherwise, they
otherwise.
repossess it.
So it's a motion.
We have no fire
For
capacity.
the pumper, the existing pumper fire truck for $76,200, to recommend $76,269 for the last year of the lease.
I second that.
Okay, are we ready to vote on this? All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to recommend.
yeah.
Again, I think not recommend favorable action, but recommend to the FinCom as
Keep
they.
on saying the same thing. We're recommending, our recommendation to the FinCom is that this is the amounts of money the Board of
Okay.
Selectmen is recommending to the FinCom that they approve.
I'm just not making that, saying that in the motion each time, so. Okay, the next one is protective gear for the fire department. It's $30,800. My understanding is that we buy a certain amount of protective gear every year
Yep,
in sort of rotation. So it would be a motion to recommend $30,800 in the operating budget for fire protective gear. Is there a second?
Oh, you made a motion to approve?
Motion to recommend.
Second?
Is it, yeah.
I apologize. You said from the operating budget, is that just in?
Well, I guess I'm not supposed to say that. No funding sources.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Just
Sorry.
$30,800.
Where we get the money to pay for all of this stuff is another story.
That's why I wanted to
Yeah,
clarify what
sorry.
she had said.
Yeah,
Sorry.
$30,800.
Not designated as source.
Protective gear for fire.
Okay, I'm always in favor of protective gear, but I'd like to hear from the chief as to why we can't do without it, potentially do without it this year.
The gear is actually going to be out of date, about 10 sets. That's going to be,
10 sets. And how many
lasts
sets?
about 10 years. And after the 10 years, you have to,
Oh, so it's already got an attrition factor
Yes.
in there.
yeah,
So this is the year in which it defaults to,
yes.
it's considered invalid,
And
no
this is
good.
the second year we did it last year, too.
Okay. All right.
Did we have a second on that? Yes, okay. Further discussion? All in favor of
Aye.
that?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Then we have, I think this is breathing apparatus, is that correct? For the fire department, again, I believe it's the same kind of situation, a rotation of replacement of ones that are aging. It's a $15,000 cost. I move that we recommend $15,000 for SCBA equipment for the fire department.
Second?
Oh, that's not scuba.
No, it's not
I
underwater.
kept looking at it for scuba, and I was gonna say, how often are we going into Wenham Lake looking for somebody? Okay, thank you,
Something
Chief.
breathing apparatus.
Glad we have you here.
That is all Jack.
Self-contained breathing act.
Self-contained breathing apparatus. Okay, so, further discussion? If not, all in
I'm
favor
all-
of
all
recommending?
answered.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next one is a new proposal. This is the backup ambulance. It's year one. It's proposed to be a 4-year lease, with the first year of the lease costing $57,000.
That's engine 4. The ambulance is
That's it, yeah.
30,000.
Oh, sorry. $30,986. Do we want to discuss this before we have a motion?
Yeah, I spent an hour and a half with the fire chief today, and I went over the statistics about, this is the second ambulance, not the, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm not in favor of this unless the chief had 3 or 4 scenarios. One of them was for $10,000. Is that out the window now?
That is out the window.
Then I'm not in favor of this. The statistics would indicate that we're not going to generate the revenue from, call it the second run. I mean, I'm not saying it exactly correctly. At the time, chief thought maybe he can get away with $10,000 to rehab the one that was destroyed with gasoline instead of diesel. I thought that was to basically get $10,000 worth of additional revenue, $45,000 worth of additional revenue. I thought that was a good deal, and that I thought that was reasonable. But when you have to spend $31,000, it's cutting it way too close. And these are statistics that were estimated based upon several months where we didn't have one ambulance, and so I think that's way too close to call. And if they can come up with some other lower cost alternative for a second ambulance service, I would be in favor of reviewing it, but not for $31,000.
Can I ask you, Jack, why the $10,000 factor is not?
You have to ask him, because that's what he told me
The truck
today,
is
and it
now
changed
starting to
between.
rot. It's been sitting there almost a year now.
Yes.
And the bottoms of the doors, with the new OEMS regulations, it'll never pass inspection. So it'd be throwing money into a
Good
restaurant.
money to bad. Okay.
At 10:30 this morning, he was more optimistic, but since when the
been
sun
rotting
went
another 8
down, he
hours.
just got
As
less
much as we would
optimistic.
have liked to have done that.
Yeah.
we couldn't.
Yeah,
So,
That's my opinion, anyway.
all right.
yeah, so I think what I'm hearing is a motion to
Not to
not
support.
recommend $30,986.
Yeah, it's mine.
And is there a second on that motion?
Second.
So this is all in favor of not recommending, raise
Aye.
your hand.
Aye.
So it's 3, not. We have a mixture of positive and negative motions, but
Well, that's.
I'm glad it's not town meeting. Okay, so moving along.
Engine 4.
For engine 4, which is also a pumper, I believe, and would be a backup. This is a new piece of equipment, looking for a lease, a 10-year lease, the first year of which, let's see if I get this right, $57,000.
Yeah, I have several comments on that based on the chief's. First of all, going into this morning's Panera Bread meeting, I was dead set against it. And that, then I had another cup of coffee, then another cup of coffee, and it didn't work that way. So I think my recommendation to my colleagues here is to have the chief come back and spend 15 to 20 minutes explaining why this town needs a second pumper. And what are the ramifications if we don't have a second pumper? We may not have a second pumper anyway, as Anthony was telling me, because the sticker or whatever, the inspection service is going to run out in August. But I think that I learned a lot talking to the fire chief about why we should have a second pumper or replace the one that we need to replace. And if we do, by the way, if we can be convinced and the FinCom can be convinced, we should not. We should have a debt service override instead of just paying out of capital, something else like that. Because this is a $475,000 truck. If we leased it, it's $560 or something like that. But we shouldn't be leasing it. We have plenty of have a debt service override for $475,000 if indeed the Board of Selectmen approve it and the FinCom approve it. But I think. Given the time here and we have more stuff to go, I think it behooves us. I'm just recommending.
Let's come back at it.
I think the chief should come back and share with you all what he shared with me as to what compelling reasons we have, community mutual aid, all kinds of stuff, why we, the town, should be approving this. That's my
And
recommendation.
I did give you a couple pages of what we talked about today.
Yeah.
Pages.
So I agree with more explanation. I might suggest that rather than having this separate explanations for the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, I feel like the FinCom is going to have the same questions. If we can arrange to
Agreed.
have one presentation to all of us, if we
I
have
agree.
some kind of a joint meeting coming up, that would be, I
Right.
feel like that would be
Right.
efficient.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a motion to defer this item, Engine 4, decision on this item until after further discussion and presentation by the chief
Well, the
of police.
FinCom can send, as they've done in the past, they assign, different, each FinCom member is a certain department, so whoever has got the fire department and the FinCom might join us, or the whole FinCom can, or whatever.
Right.
But yes, the FinCom recommendation, so the person or the whole committee can understand what we're going to,
Okay.
subsequently going to hear.
Okay, ready to move on?
Yep.
Next three items are IT items. The first one is financial software. This says recurring debt, which makes me feel like it's already in process, $16,949. Is it simple enough that I can make a motion to recommend financial software for $16,949?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Why are we having a recurring debt on that? I mean, do we lease it? What is that anyway?
Jackie, you know what that one is?
Yeah, so when we went.
Can you come to the
Oh, yes,
podium?
Is it software, what?
Yeah, so that is the SoftWrite software.
Oh,
or
that's
financial
SoftWrite, yeah.
software.
So a few years ago, when we went into debt for a couple of other projects, including the fire pumper that we're in its last year of, we also added this financial software when we transitioned from Vadar to SoftWrite in either 2015 or 2016. So this is just continuing the purchase of that financial software.
How much longer is this in force?
I think more than just next year. At least a year or two more after that, off the top of my
We're
head.
carrying this for a bit still.
Yeah, but it was a major investment for us. I mean, this is software that we
I
use
remember
for.
when we did, it was 100 and some thousand.
Yeah, it manages our general ledger, our accounts payable. It's the number one financial software in the building.
Only take one
So we use it for everything.
Release
Okay.
this?
Thank you.
Anytime.
Okay, well, let's just,
You can do the next
if
one.
we're ready to vote on this one,
Yeah,
let's just, I think,
I think we have to. Otherwise,
so it's a motion to approve continuing paying the debt service on the SoftWrite financial software at a sum of $16,949.
Second?
All in favor?
Right?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll explain the next one while Jack
And we're going
steps
to
out
take
for a
a
second.
60-second recess for water.
Can I
Don't anybody beat you.
can I say what the next one is, or do you want me to
Water,
wait?
too.
Oh,
Go ahead.
okay, no, we're gonna wait. No, we just lost a quorum, so. $10,000, it says recurring. I presume that's because it's part of an IT plan that would replace a certain number of laptops every year?
Desktops.
Desktops, yeah, okay. And this year, 30 of them for $10,000?
So it's 30 over the course of the time.
Ah, okay.
The majority of our desktops in Town Hall are no longer going to be Windows supported. We have some older Dells in the building that are main staff computers, just in terms of doing our daily business.
So this is $10,000 for something smaller than 30 to replace very
It's 30
aged.
total, yeah, that would be replaced.
Okay. So these are desktop computers that are old and need replacement?
You can't replace 30 computers for $10,000.
Well, that's what the question I just asked Jackie. She said 30 is the
30 over
total.
time, so there's 10,000 every year to replace 30 altogether.
Oh,
over
Right.
time.
So-
10,000 will get us like 5?
Yeah, I mean, it's something.
Okay, all right.
So
It's going.
that's a motion to recommend the purchase of some number of town hall desktop computers or
I
town
think-
desktop computers for
You know, this-
$10,000.
Yeah, I think we need an inventory of how many we have still running old systems
Yeah.
that, I was talking to Anthony about that today, and that, and I think, I understand there's 2 or 3 in the basement we haven't deployed yet, I was told. Someplace in the attic.
That's what I've.
If we have an
I heard-
attic here, I don't know.
I heard
you know.
that also, Jack.
That being said,
No, the last one went to the fire department.
But nevertheless, if we had plenty of money, we wanted to make sure that all of our computers could do Windows 10 and not Windows 7. How many would be ordering now? And how many we are deficient and basically exposed to? Because William, they're not, as of this month here, they're not, Microsoft is not supporting that anymore. So if we had to, how many are we deficient? So because the town should understand we have some exposure here by running Windows 7, and we're only going to afford to replace maybe 4 or 5 or something like that. And how many years is it going to take us at $10,000 a year to basically replace all Windows 7 computers? Because that's a significant IT financial exposure. So that I think we need more information on that, and I'm certainly willing to go along with 10,000, but I want other people to know that
That's not it.
that's not it.
so from a policy point of view, it sounds as if we are in favor of recommending the expenditure of funds for computers that will at least, based on a plan, bring computers up to current.
A few computers.
Yeah,
But
I don't have a dollar number, but policy-wise, we're okay. I
Yeah.
guess we're saying we would recommend some money be spent on computers, we just need to know how many and what the dollar number would be.
Yeah, you just guessing at 30, is 30 is like a wild ass guess, or is that a scientific, you actually counted 30
No,
computers?
We'll get an updated, we have an inventory for Micro Support Group, and we'll get another updated one for you, just so you know, because we do have like maybe 4 or 5 that are already on the new system from when we've had to replace things that were completely gone, but including, police, fire, COA, town hall, we'll get you an updated number, but it's in that range. But we can get you the updated inventory.
It's in the range of 30, you're saying?
Correct.
So,
We've got multiple, it's not just town hall.
So definitely in the 10, it's just a question.
okay, so I guess there are 2 things here, so I guess I'm just trying to figure out the policy part so we can kind of get through this sheet. I think in principle, we agree with the fact that we should have some number of updated computers so that we're not running computers that are no longer supported. Yes? So that was a motion. Move that we recommend the expenditure of some amount of computers to be determined through an inventory to bring us up to the latest version of Windows.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. IT, the third one is a website upgrade, a one-time cost of $13,500. So I guess I'll just make the motion. I move that we recommend a expenditure of $13,500 for one-time website upgrade. We can talk about it.
Well, my question is, why do we need it? I mean, maybe we do, can somebody educate me why we need to spend that money?
The current website is very limited to its capabilities. Not very many communities use Revise because of its limitations. A new updated software will allow us to be more transparent and engaging with the community.
I'd say in better times, we might consider it, but I'm not in favor of it.
What do you think?
I use the website all the time, and
Are you satisfied with this website?
no. No, let me rephrase that, though. I think that the folks here have done absolutely everything that they could possibly do to make what we have as usable and as functional as possible. But I do think we've reached the capacity of what this particular website Revise company can do. So, with civic engagement being on the top of or in our goals for the last 3 years, we can't be ignoring the website. So I know, we don't have any money, but
Well, let me ask this, Jackie may be able to answer part of this better than most of us. How would this, the lack of this information or this ability affect your permitting operation, for example?
It doesn't. Permitting, we just upgraded the permitting software, so things can get done online. It's normally just a link off of our website, so it has no effect directly on the permitting office. It's everything else we do.
So the operational effect of it is not there, it's not gonna harm
For
this.
permitting, no, there's nothing to do with permitting.
I think the town calendar is one of the biggest issues in terms of having a more effective calendar. I think a more effective homepage as well that is more user-friendly.
Notifications,
Yeah, then emergency.
when you
alerts.
pop up, if you're playing on our website, you pop up, you end up with about 4 or 5 different screens open up. I think Sarah Palin, did she once say you could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig? So,
it's not, there are some functions that are not very reliable. I've signed up for notifications 3 or 4 times, and I get them for a while, and then I don't get them.
yeah, so it will help us solve some of those problems. It's a huge project, but
I'm in favor of it,
Okay, so,
reluctantly.
reluctantly. So the motion to recommend the expenditure of, what did I say?
13,
$13,000 for
500.
website upgrade, a website upgrade. That's a motion.
Yeah, I'm reluctantly in favor of it.
Is there a second? Will you reluctantly second it?
No,
Okay,
yes, I'll go, just kidding.
okay.
Oh, it's
So
been
we have a
difficult.
motion and a second to recommend this $13,500 expenditure. Is there any more discussion? All in favor?
Jones,
No.
no.
No. So 2 yes, 1 no. Okay. Then we have Iron Rail. To simplify this a little, someone correct me if I'm wrong on this. The first 2 items, replace roof and gutter, fascia, road, and parking lot paving, are items that have already been completed and we're in the process of paying for through bands. So the $17,000 and the $8,000 are recurring. We've already made the commitment, we've already done the work. and-
This spent money.
Okay,
So the motion to recommend that $17,000 and $8,000 is really to just continue paying off the debt.
I guess so.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Okay, so that's both of those. The third one, I guess I have a question right away, because this says to design and replace septic system
It's just
again.
design.
It's just design, okay. So,
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool if you
yeah,
get the.
yeah, so, yeah. So, for expediency, I'll make a motion that we recommend a one-time expenditure of $10,000 at the Iron Rail to get a design for a new septic system.
Second.
Do we want to just talk about that anymore?
I'm going to say no, though we can probably do the installation ourselves, and all we do need is the design. I would defer to Bill Tyak saying, can we get away with it for another year at this point without the design? And he could still potentially do the installation.
no, we
You
can't
have
do
to
the
have a design.
installation without the
You
design.
have to have a
Correct.
design.
But can we get away with it for
This was
another
Bill's
year?
recommendation.
This was Bill's recommendation, yeah. So it's, as he said the other night at FinCom, the septic system has like 8 fingers
Yeah.
that's on it. We're down to 1 that's working. So it really would behoove the community to approve this, because we can actually do the installation in-house, which would save a significant dollar amount. If we had to do that privately, I'm guessing $80,000.
Yeah,
A home is
should be, yeah.
40, 50. That might be 80, and we have somebody on staff that can do that while he's here. I think we should probably approve that and get that project going, because without
How
that,
much more is it gonna cost us to do the installation?
that's next year's budget, we don't know. It'll be called materials. I don't have any answer to that, but it'd be materials.
I just gave Kathy my answer.
So are we ready to vote on
Yeah,
this?
Johnson, no, I'll say yes.
Well, so all in favor? Two of us? You're not,
Reluctant, but
yes, no, maybe?
I'll go along with it, yeah, yes.
Oh, okay. 2 yes, 1 reluctant. Go ahead, put it down.
I'm putting 3 yes. Okay. How are we doing here? So the library, there is a one-time request for a library server for $18,000. I would move that we make a recommendation that we would move to recommend that request.
They only need 1 server? You think they, no. How many virtual servers they got? Just, this is a physical server we're talking about, right?
Physical server,
Yeah. How many servers do they have, physical servers, you know?
just this one, is one big one, from my understanding.
A big one.
Yeah, a large one.
A large.
And $18,000.
And just as a reminder that we'll get 2/3 of that back from Hamilton.
Oh, I immediately say yes. Okay.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. If further discussion?
All right, so this is just the server.
Server for $18,000.
It's an old server too, right?
It's original to the
Yeah,
library, isn't it?
it does everything she said, and they've recommended
This is years old,
replacing it.
right?
Years, yeah.
I'm surprised they
If it's
didn't.
original, it's gotta be 20 years old.
Well, I don't think it's 20, but,
I think it's about 10 years old.
yeah.
Yeah, that's more like it. That's long life for a server.
So all in favor of
Aye.
recommending that?
Aye.
Okay. Next at the library, a one-time expenditure. This looks to me like it's a roof replacement. Is that correct? So it's a
Partial, yeah.
partial roof
Oh,
replacement?
yeah, there is a question on that. Is it partial or complete?
It's the partial. It's, Jackie, how do they explain it? The overhang portion? It's not the flat
It's
roof?
not the rec department, it's the library.
Yeah.
That's my understanding, like, that while those buildings are connected, this
They
is the
are.
library portion,
Right.
not the rec. This is not the roof over the gym
Right.
at all.
Huh, okay.
That's a different roof for a different day.
And there is leakage through the roof at
We're
this
gonna
point?
stop after we
We're-
get through this page here.
Right.
And our
Almost
facilities
done.
director mentioned to me that he's concerned about mold damage if it
You
continues.
have to take care of the roof, period. It's
We just have a
not
meeting
even a
scheduled.
question anymore.
And we would get 61
That's the only other thing
Okay,
that's
good.
left.
That's good, okay. I'm fine with
Okay.
that.
Jack, we get 2/3 of it back from Hamilton.
61,000.
I heard that, that's why I
Oh,
voted yes
right.
immediately.
So,
Just kidding,
I
Hamilton,
have
don't
way
worry.
too many items here. I think I made a motion to recommend this. I think it was seconded. If we have no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Someone's gonna have to keep me honest with this. Police. First item is administrative vehicle. This is an annual. I don't think we get an administrative vehicle annually. That's a question I
Is
think.
that the lease?
Vehicle,
Every 6 years.
okay, so this is a replacement of a vehicle that's 6
Right,
years
this
old.
is the second to last payment from one of the administration. It's the same as the other
Ah.
ones. It's the lease payment.
So it's the 5th out of 6 lease payments.
42,000?
I think it's the
No,
second.
no,
out
the
of
first
third.
thing.
Second out of
First
3rd
item.
lease payments.
The 12,000 up there.
Okay, so we've already got this vehicle, we've already paid.
Is there one
One.
or 2 administrative vehicles?
There's two.
So the $12,000 is for,
One of the 2?
Correct.
okay,
We replace them every 6 years, but because there's two of them, every 3 years we replace one of them.
Okay, got it.
so this is a recommendation to spend $12,133 for a lease, second of 3 years of a administrative vehicle that we have already been paying for. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Jack, John? Yeah. Frontline cruiser, is that the same situation?
No, those are the patrol vehicles.
Right, but do we, how many vehicles is this 42,000?
One.
One vehicle.
But it's not a lease payment. What we've done is we bought the frontline vehicles outright traditionally, and the administrative vehicles we've leased over a 3-year program.
So I have two comments. One, your current policy is to train men as they approach 100,000 miles, is that the idea?
3 years, 100,000, well, we try to stay under 100,000 miles because we actually get much more significant of a trade-in value for them. If you go over the 100,000, you only get about $2,500 trade-in. If you stay under that $100,000, it's usually in the $5,000 to $6,000 range.
But if somebody was at 98,000, they're not gonna, you have to, I would think you'd have to be significantly under the 100,000 in order to have the difference you're talking about.
They pretty much use that as your landmark. I mean, if it's 98, you're not gonna do as good as if it was 68, but we don't trade them at 68,000, so.
Yeah. I got it. Well, years ago, when I was in the Finance Committee, the turn-in, they wanted the vehicles to go 130,000 miles, not, I'm sure you remember that, because I do. And that, but then it dropped to 100,000. But in the last 10 years, or 12 or 15, wherever I started doing this stuff, cars that go longer now. They're not, the useful life of automobiles today is, the useful life is a lot longer than it was, call it 10, 15 years ago. And that, so a lot of people are driving their cars 130, 140, 150, 160,000 miles, not just Volvos either. So I think that I like to see us, we're in a tough situation here. I'd like to see us extend and not buy, not lease this, or not buy a car. You're looking to buy a car here, not, right?
Correct.
Yeah. I'd like to see if we could defer that for another year and let them go over 100,000. So it could cost us, based on what the chief just said, a few $1,000s, 5,000 to 7,000 versus 25 to 3,000. So I mean,
May I go up?
please. Well, you're going to gang up on me. Both of them are coming.
It's far more complex
I
than
want to go
that.
check my car right now, make sure.
No, it's a little more complex than that. That's just the trade-in value that you would lose. There's all sorts of additional maintenance fees. For example, the vehicle that is in question right now, we just spent $2,000 this month keeping it on the road, $1,000 the month before.
What went on it?
It was the injectors. Yeah, it was due to the actual engine itself. So we had it inspected by our own mechanic first over at the highway garage, and he recommended the work had to be done. And we had it done at a Ford dealership because of how complex it was. But we've tried this. We tried it back in 2008, and it was disastrous, as you'd recall. We literally had to. We had to mothball 4 vehicles instantaneously.
That's right.
They had to all come off the road. We had to borrow cars from the sheriff's department, and then we had to turn around and buy 4 cars all at once to the tune of over $150,000. This schedule is what works. I would love to tell you that we could extend it. I don't like wasting money any more than anybody else, but it doesn't work. We've tried it. Next year is a scheduled 2-car year anyway, so now you'd be talking about 3 cars in the same year. And the other negative to that was when we purchased all those cars at the exact same time, it screwed the schedule up for 6 years because now you have cars that are the same age. So when you go to get back to the schedule, you have all these cars that have had the exact same mileage on them and everything else. Now you turn around and buying 3 at once all over again, and
So, educate me, we have 2 administrative vehicles. How many other patrol cars do we have?
So we have a total of 6 vehicles. 2 of them are administrative, 3 of them are frontline cars. 1 of them is the truck, which we call special purpose or utility. That car will, that vehicle, the truck, which is the Yep, 1723.
The big one that sits out there.
Yep, that one will never be replaced. That's what we call a legacy vehicle. It was purchased at a time when all of our cruisers were rear-wheel drive and pretty much useless in the snow. That was about the only vehicle we had during any kind of a significant snowstorm that could even get around. Since the purchase of that vehicle, now every single one of our vehicles in the fleet is all-wheel drive. So we're not going to look to replace that vehicle, but it has low miles. It still is the best vehicle we have in heavy snowstorms.
Those rear-wheel drive?
No, that's four-wheel drive.
Four-wheel drive. The truck.
When we purchased it,
Yeah.
all we had were rear-wheel drive
Oh, okay.
cruisers. But since then, you remember the Crown Vics? They were absolutely the best police car ever made, except for when it snowed.
Right, Florida cars.
Yeah, exactly. We wish that they kept creating them and just made them all-wheel drive, because now everything's gotten smaller and more
So
compact.
other than
but-
this, what do you call that, what do you call that? The truck, I'll call it.
Yeah, special operations vehicle.
Yeah. So when that ends, when gets to its end of its useful life, you're not going to replace that?
No.
Okay. So that means there's 3 other vehicles other than so the truck, 2 administrative vehicles, and there's 3 other vehicles at the police-
Frontline patrol vehicles.
3.
Yep. Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
I thought there was more than that.
And so the 3
The-
frontline, you replace 1 in 1 year and 2 the next
The
year?
frontline vehicle, so that's why every year we have a vehicle to replace, because of the 3 frontline vehicles. We get 3 years out of each one of them, and they average around 30-something thousand miles every single year. If it helps to give some perspective, surrounding communities around us, we have the 6 vehicles that we spoke of. Middleton has 11, Hamilton has 8, Boxford has 7, Topsfield has 7, Rockport has 7, Manchester has 6, Essex has 5. So we're down near the bottom of all the surrounding similar communities to us.
Is that apples to apples? I mean, is that, when you're comparing those numbers, is that comparing to our 6 or our 3? When you say
That's to our 6, so that's their total fleet complement.
total fleet complement?
Yep. Yep, I can break it down further if you wanted to.
It's all right.
Okay.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, we're not near the top of the list for fleet complements at all.
Well, clearly, they have to reduce patrols to East Wenham. That's a lot of miles.
8 square miles adds up when it's 24/7.
So,
Wait.
I'm done with my questions.
okay, so I think we did the administrative vehicle, so this is the replacement of a frontline
One of the frontline-
cruiser,
Right.
$42,000 outright purchase.
Why wouldn't we purchase it and not lease it like we've done already? How much would a lease cost us? We'd lease the other ones. Why not this one?
We'll pay interest?
We could, I guess my only thought to that, and I don't have a preference either way, to be honest with you, is it does tie you in. So if we got to the point, which we kind of almost did, when we purchased the 4 vehicles at once, we leased them all. And it definitely ties you in. In that case, we did a 5-year lease program of, don't hold me to it, but I want to say it was around $55,000 a year. And then some of the other cars had to be replaced. So you own that $55,000 every year, and then we had to get a vehicle on top of that.
I see.
That's the only downside, but
Yeah, well, that's.
So buying it out leaves you to control
yeah.
the
yeah,
expenditure
that's a
more
downside. I got
directly.
it. Okay. Okay. I'm in favor.
Okay, so, this is a motion to recommend $42,000 for an outright purchase. Did we get a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So 3 yeses. So the last police recommendation here is 14 rifles,
No, it's 10 rifles at
10 rifles?
14,000.
10 rifles, one-time replacement.
Oh, the
Yes.
printout is not correct then. At least mine is.
Yeah, mine says 14, but so 10 rifles, $14,000.
Yep, sorry, that would be a typo. It
So
would
is
just
it
be
10?
10, yes.
It's 10.
That's what we have now. We have 1 in each vehicle, except for 2 in the truck, as it is a special operations unit. And then we have 3 in the armory, and those are the ones that we actually train with, sorry.
That's 8, if I counted right.
Nope, 6 vehicles, 1 in each
Oh,
one,
6 vehicles.
except for the truck
All of the
has,
vehicles have a.
all the vehicles.
Even the administrative vehicles have a shotgun.
That's correct.
Are they shotguns? Is that what they are?
No, they're patrol
High-powered.
rifles.
Huh?
High-powered.
Patrol rifles, AR-15s.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the criteria for replacing those, just out of curiosity?
They keep track of the rounds. We have an armorer in the department, which is Sergeant Dave Marsh. He keeps track of how many rounds we do, and we've had these for 10 years now, so it's not an annual thing or a biannual thing by any stretch. But, unfortunately, due to world events, we have to train more with them. So now we used to qualify once a year with them. Now it's 4 times a year.
Well, let me ask you, why wouldn't you be able to put this off to next year?
We put it on last year, and it got put off to this year. We kind of strategically did it because simultaneously as this happened, we also had replacement of the cruiser laptops, and we were able to get in on a grant with the RECC, so those are going to be free. next year's a two-car year. It just made sense to try to put it in this year. Like I said, they were actually due for replacement last year. Was it critical that it happened last year? No, but I'm just worried if we keep pushing it down the road, then.
Well, I mean, for the layman,
Borrow this from
Yep.
you.
what they say to me
Add up
is,
here.
why do you need these anyway? How often does Wenham have a call for
I'm
this?
trying.
Sure.
And I have no answer for them, and I won't give them an
Is it
answer
14, right, or is it?
in
10.
layman's
Oh, it's 10.
terms.
Right.
Okay, no, okay.
It's an
I
industry
would defer to
standard.
you,
So,
professional.
Vehicles.
I mean, I've been here since the 80s, and back then, we always had the shotguns.
Correct.
And we didn't have to use those very often, too, but they're a necessity. If you need them, you have to have them. The shotguns have all been replaced. We had decent equipment, so we didn't get rid of them. We converted them over to less than lethal, which means they fire beanbags now instead of...
Oh, really?
Yeah, you absolutely, in this day and age, have to have some less than lethal options that you have to at least... Yeah, it's a different world. I mean, the
Really?
training we do now is what they used to do in the SWAT teams 20 years ago.
Next year,
so.
they want BB guns.
So
It's-
what will
It's
happen
not
to,
like NCI Los Angeles, huh?
so what will happen with the rifles that we're replacing?
We will explore trade-in values. I don't know exactly what those would be, but if there is any surplus, we'd return it to the town.
I think that's probably worth exploring.
Yeah.
Let me go through the numbers again. You have 6 vehicles, there's 1 in each vehicle, that's 6 rifles.
Truck has 2.
So it's actually 7
Well,
rifles
wait a
and
minute,
6 vehicles.
6 includes the truck, doesn't it?
Right, but that particular vehicle has 2,
Okay, that means 7.
correct. And then we have 3 in the Armory, and those are the ones we use for training.
Oh,
So we don't have to
that's how
take
you
the
get-
ones out of service.
I see.
Okay.
Because once we train with them, they're out of service for a while. It takes a while to break those down, clean them, and get them back into service. It's not like cleaning a handgun. None of us are qualified to do it. We only have 1 officer that's qualified to do that, so,
Oh.
yeah.
And to
What-
qualify with them, you usually have 2 or 3 at the same time.
What do they cost each? I just divided.
About $1,400 replacement cost.
It's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know a little bit more about this than I should admit. Did a little research on this. I didn't have to go too far. Okay, so moving right along, I move that we recommend $14,000 expenditure to replace 10 rifles.
I'll second the motion.
Is there further discussion?
Yeah. So what if we placed half this year and half next year?
We could live with that.
You have to qualify on both, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, we would have to make sure that we got almost the exact same weapon as what we have.
Do you?
From an ammunition training point of view,
More of a nomenclature point of view, just so that, everything is exactly the same. I mean, we haven't looked into that yet, to be honest with you, but I can explore it.
maybe you should,
I'd like to explore. We're down. We're several $100,000 in the hole.
I understand.
And that we're trying to find ways to save money. That would save only whatever it is,
$7,000.
$7,000 is $7,000, and I wouldn't want this to be a subject of a town meeting, a hold on this one
No.
by the police budget either. So that I think replacing all of these might trigger somebody saying, "Get up and explain all this to 150 people." So if you could find a way to replace half this year and half next year, I'd be happy with that.
We're willing to do our part.
thank you.
So the motion becomes a recommendation to defer decision until we have an answer on whether we can buy 5 this year and 5
We
next year.
just said he could do it.
Oh, you said you can do it. I thought he said he needed to, he was gonna look into it.
I would have to consult with the armor
I
and
am now
the,
the deputy chief. I'm
Okay.
saying.
I think you need the armorer, not the,
yeah, I would just like to defer to the experts before I
Fine.
answer
We'll
you
wait
on
till you
that,
answer them.
but
okay.
Definitely willing
So the motion is then to
do that for
defer.
you.
Okay.
If
thank
there's
you
no
very much.
further discussion, all in favor of that deferral?
Aye.
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 And-
Did we
and-
have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Well, we're deferring it. And the first, do we approve, we approve the cars?
Yeah, yeah. So that's all the police capital. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're coming down to actually, the last 2 items, I think maybe we can also put together. Someone is going to have to, these are both from the water department. There's an upgrade for 50, of something, which I'm going to ask for an explanation of, for 50,000, and a $35,000 annual transfer to the water reserve, capital reserve, which we talked about earlier. These all come out of the water fund. So my only question on that, I think we could vote them together if someone can tell me what a SCADA system
SCADA is, I was just going
upgrade
to ask
is.
that, thank you.
I think I've asked that before, but I've forgotten.
Let's defer it again to the water department.
Do you know it specifically, or do you want to defer it to Eric?
I do know it specifically.
All right.
It's the,
Can
oh
you-
yeah, sorry.
I should sit closer
I
to
was
the
just
front.
taking very odd notes. So the SCADA system,
Obviously, Eric could do a much better job, but it's the software that the water department utilizes to keep an eye on our water system. So it's how they manage the water, particularly the pumps, the wells. It's a software that they are on every day, and it's currently like Windows 90 something that we have. So we've outlived the useful life of this software. So this is a replacement via the water fund for that technology. So it's the software that controls all of the things that they check on a daily
Check the
basis.
chemicals.
All of the, basically any of their operations that have to do with the wells or the pumps are via this software. And the new one, Eric told me, they'll actually be able to, right now it's not like a software that connects to the internet, but this new one will have a connection to their phones so they can actually check the systems remotely instead of having to go to the pumps themselves, which is kind of nice as well, a new
He did
new
talk
feature.
about that.
That makes
recently.
sense. So, but this is going to come out, not on Article 1, this is going to come out of the water funds department,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have that correct?
Correct. Well, it still gets approved in Article 1 by
But the
form,
source
but
of
it's,
funding, we haven't
would be
talked about
water
the source of
revenue.
funding, tonight, by
Correct.
request, but this particularly
This is water revenue.
This is water revenue, so doesn't affect the tax rate,
Right.
right?
Not an additional appropriation.
Right.
No.
Same with the next
Say,
one.
say right so we can,
No, it does not.
Good.
Water comes in and water goes out.
right.
Well put.
There.
So I think,
Well put.
yeah, oh, wait, we can keep it
They're
going.
spending money they have in reserve.
So-
I want to keep it flowing when you're talking about water.
Oh, that was good, Jackie.
thank you. anytime.
So
Here all week.
I'm gonna make
Very fluid
a
explanation, thank you very much.
motion to, this meeting's gotta end soon.
I just like to keep the discussion hydrated.
Oh, my gosh. So I think for expediency, the motion will be to recommend both expenditures for the water department coming out of the water fund, $50,000 for the SCADA system upgrade and $35,000 for the water reserve.
Second.
I'll agree with that with a caveat. Is there a memo, you gave a pretty good explanation. I'm not trying to go back and forth with words here, but is there a written memo describing why they need to spend the 50,000 and the other?
Do you have your budget book with
Yeah, I was
you,
gonna
Jack?
say, it's
I do, it's in there?
probably,
It's in the water
It's
department.
probably in
It-
here.
It has a capital page and has a paragraph or two.
Okay, thanks. I have to go back and look at it again. Thank you. I'm in favor.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that finishes up this, at least in terms of recommendations for what we're in favor of and not in favor of. Is that,
That was a good process.
was that enough for you, Anthony? We got through the whole sheet.
It was great.
Okay, that's my item. That is item J on the schedule.
Okay.
I just have one more thing.
Okay, Norma's down for John is, I guess.
Yeah.
Is there anything else we need to discuss before this board adjourns?
Yeah,
Yeah,
there is.
meeting schedule. Okay.
Meeting schedule.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That's
Sorry.
yours.
That's right. Do you have a meeting schedule in here?
It's right there.
Oh, here we go.
So basically, from February 4th on, just meeting every week, meet weekly, right through the town meeting. We could always take some of these off if we're making some good progress, but February 4th would be the joint meeting with the Wenham Housing Authority to make that appointment. We could also throw some other items on that meeting. The 11th, I put a potential 5 PM start because Catherine and myself did put in for the superintendent search committee. If either one of us are chosen, that meeting time is at 6:30 or 7,
Seven, I
Catherine?
believe.
7, yeah. So that's why we set a potential 5 PM start there. February 18th is the joint meeting with FinCom. February 25th, same as February 11th, for the same reason. March 2nd is a Monday.
You want to start at 5 to end early?
And by 7.
To end by 7.
Okay, end by 7, all right.
March 2nd, your meeting normally would be on March 3rd, that's the presidential primary, so this room would not be available, so we could go to the Bucher School on that Monday.
Have they said okay to that, by the way?
Yeah, anything, yes, we've had the conversation with the school on any date that
I'll
we
be drinking
propose.
heavily on 17th,
I
of
think
course.
that's a 5 p.m. start also on the second, March 2nd
Celebration,
would
Jack.
also
Guess
be,
these
Celebrate.
things-
would also be a
17th.
Would that-
5 p.m. start, I think,
Would that be?
March 2nd, yes.
We would have to
Depends.
tie in these times.
Well, yeah. I'll
The
get that.
17th, 24th, and 31st would be regular 6:30 starts.
And the only comment I'll make is, which I don't think affects anyone at this table, except as people who might want to go, March 31st is candidates' night.
Oh.
Just FYI.
Oh.
So,
Well, I had to go last year, I
Yes.
don't have to go this year, so.
well, it's a matter of attending, not a matter of presenting.
What time is that?
Because I would like to go
It's for
myself.
both towns,
Both
all of
towns.
the people who are running for election or
All
reelection.
candidates.
Yeah,
leave
what
for
time
all.
does it start?
It's
also
usually
televised, by the way, too.
7, and it's usually at the Bucher School.
So if we needed to, we could do
So
an
we could
early
do a
meeting?
5 o'clock
Yeah.
start if we
Yeah.
needed to meet on
We
that
should.
night, too.
What about the warrant hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
where's
I
that?
think, we've already talked about a date for
We're
that.
gonna meet the next night too, the warrant hearing's on the 30th, no,
The warrant hearing,
Well, the town meeting is,
FinComs?
refresh my memory, the town meeting is
Is
when?
that FinComs?
April 4th.
Warrant
So
hearing?
it's,
So the
it's
warrant hearing is the
Monday
30th.
before, it's the Monday before that.
Yeah, so it's the 30th would be the warrant hearing, the 31st would be a selectmen's meeting.
Well,
If we approve
We
this.
need to be there on the 30th, but that's not a selectmen's meeting.
Right.
But we,
Right.
you know, you should put in, just put that down, 30th.
Yeah, it's in our master calendar that, Jackie, it's inside your packet too. This is just Board of Selectmen itself. But yeah, it's in there for the 30th.
I mean, we may have to answer some questions that the FinCom is not up to answering or something like that. Policy matters, I don't know. and that,
Or they may need support on or something.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever. Sometimes they last for 15 minutes, sometimes they last for 2 hours. I don't know.
I think we're going to be looking for opportunities for communicating with people up until, including that day.
Well, if the school's budget doesn't decline dramatically, this is going to be an interesting meeting.
Yep,
They make a presentation there too, so
Right.
that could last an hour and a half right there.
depends.
Never mind our budgets.
Yeah. So these, and many of these are additional meetings, correct?
Yes.
They're not first and third Tuesdays, they're every Tuesday, so meetings that were not originally scheduled. Okay,
So I move that the Board of Selectmen approve their their proposed meeting schedule through April 4th, 2020.
I'll second that, but we might need to get back to Anthony, say one or more of us might have a difficulty with a particular meeting.
Yeah, we can always take off.
Yeah,
This is
so-
just an idea. We can give it to the
This is information,
HWCAM.
this is just information. so
Yeah.
that- Okay.
and I guess,
I don't think we need to approve the actual meetings.
well, I think if anybody knows now that there's going to be a meeting, one of those that's a problem, other than what's been identified, we should probably say it. And I guess a friendly amendment, I would call this a proposed meeting schedule through March 31st, since that's the last.
Well, I know, Anthony knows this, I'm going to be calling in for the February 4th meeting, because that's an add-on meeting. It was supposed to be one agenda item only, which is the
Appointment, joint appointment.
Right.
Joint board appointment with.
yeah, which should be,
Right.
do we have any candidates for that?
Well, that's,
Yes, we actually just got another one today. And I think there's the one that the Housing Authority had said was going to put in, but Nikki was checking today and she doesn't.
We have at
know
least
about-
one candidate?
We have at least one right now, yeah.
so as soon as, if we haven't already hit the deadline for those letters of interest, as soon as we do that, I'd love to see those letters.
Sure.
We'll let her.
Letters, whatever. Okay, so are we have a motion, are we going to do
Motion to
anything?
adjourn.
Oh, okay.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 8:40.